Hello writers, in this video I will be going over my style and voice collection and tell you what it is and what you have to do. During the next 3 weeks, you will be discussing how strong writers work on understanding what their writing style is and are open to try new things with their style of writing. Apart from working on the way you write, strong writers also work on understanding why they write, what motivates us to claim a certain position on a topic. That will be our writer's voice, which is affected by our identity and personal experiences. The purpose of this project is to help us learn more about our writing style and what our writer's voice is. You will be designing a resume of your writing skill strengths, writing style markers, and identity markers. Your resume can be a digital version created using digital work processors or platforms such as Canva, Pictochart, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, etc. Your resume can also be in a physical form using construction paper, images, and other tools. Your professor will be providing construction paper during the class. A job resume is used to share critical information about yourself to someone who doesn't know you. While this is a writing resume, we are applying the same mentality here. Therefore, your audience is a stranger. As you design your resume, keep in mind that the person you are sharing this information with doesn't know you well. You will be working on this project in parts during class time for the next 3 weeks. Despite our attitudes and feelings toward writing, writing is a skill that's developed through time and practice. Like any skill, we all have strengths when it comes to our writing. Work on identifying at least 3 of your writing strengths. Stuck? Consider asking yourself the following questions. Do I brainstorm my ideas before I start to write? Do ideas come to me naturally while I write? Do I know what to do when I'm stuck on an idea? Do I take the time to revise and edit once I complete writing? Do I share my thoughts, analysis, and experiences while I write? Do I have a good grasp of spelling and grammar mechanics? Do I know how to transition from idea to idea or when to start a new paragraph/section? What makes my writing easy to understand? What makes people I share my writing to enjoy my writing? What previous feedback have I received on my writing? Now that we have identified our writing strengths, it is time to write. Write either a letter or a long text message introducing yourself to your best friend or the person who you feel the most comfortable with. Write the way you do when you normally write and talk to this person, even if that is not in English, and even if that includes a lot of emojis, but let's keep it family friendly and share with them a little about yourself. Having fun? So am I. Let's write one more time. This time we are writing for a different audience and purpose. Congratulations! The book you have been working so hard on is about to be published, but there is something missing and about the writer section. You're introducing yourself once again, but this time you will write the introduction that you will include in the back of a book to give your readers an insight into who you are. This introduction will be written to an audience of academic readers who don't know you. You decide what writing style suits you best: academic, conversational, formal, or casual. Are you stuck? Coming up, you will find J.C. Cervantes and Erika L. Sanchez about the writer section from their books The Storm Chaser and I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter for some inspiration. J.C. Cervantes grew up in San Diego, California, near the Tijuana border, where she discovered her fascination for the Maya and Aztec mythologies. Now she lives with her husband Joseph in New Mexico, which has many more volcanoes than most people think. She is the mother of 3 daughters, the youngest of whom inspired her critically acclaimed first novel, Tortilla's Son. Her wish is that children everywhere see themselves reflected in the pages of the books that inspire them and they learn to see beyond their own lives, recognizing and celebrating others. She believes in magic, always roots for the underdog, and eats salsa with nearly every meal. Erika L. Sanchez is a poet, a feminist, and a cheerleader for young women everywhere. She was Cosmopolitan for Latina Sex and Love Advice columnist for 3 years, and her writing has appeared in Rolling Stone, Salon, and the Paris Review. She is also the author of Lessons on Expulsion, a collection of poetry. Since she was a 12-year-old nerd in giant bifocals and embroidered vests, Erika has dreamed of writing complex, empowering stories about girls of color, what she wanted to read as a young adult. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter is her first novel and a National Book Award finalist. Erika is fluent in Spanish, Spanglish, and Cat. As you write your own about the writer, you can have the following questions in mind. What did these authors want you to know about them? What kind of person does the author want us to see them as? You might notice they use some small humor. What does that tell us about them as writers? How can you use this to talk about yourself as a writer? Now that we have written for different audiences and purposes, let's identify the style markers that we used in each writing. Next, you will find a summary of the style markers discussed in class. Language choice: English, Spanish, Spanglish, text messaging, slang, mix, etc. Detail: descriptive, for example, I feel like a pile of bricks that had been taken off my shoulders. Or straightforward, example, I feel relieved. Word choice: academic and superfluous vocabulary. Example, that was a mammoth-sized bug. Conversational and common vocabulary. Example, that was a big bug. Tense: past, present, future. I ran, I am running, I will run. Sentences: structure: follow subjective verb agreement, such as I want versus want I. Adjective use: red car versus car red. Adverb use: ran quickly versus quickly ran. Type: fragments, simple, compound, complex, compound, complex, mix. Length: one-word sentences, simple, run-on sentences, mix. Grammar: spelling: proper versus misspellings, contradictions, can't versus cannot. Punctuation: use of punctuation to show emotion, lack of punctuation. POV: I, first person point of view, implies personal connection to the piece and audience. 1. Third person point of view implies distance to the piece and audience. Your tone: casual and conversational, or academic and professional. For each of the 5 identity factors, identify 3 markers that are important to us. For example, 3 relationships, 3 race/ethnic values, etc. Relationships: roles that we play in the lives of others. Race and ethnicity: values instilled in us through our family. Society and politics: pressures we have experienced from society. Likes and dislikes: personality and preferences. Personal experiences: experiences that have left a mark on the person we want to be. During part 1, we identified our go-to style markers when asked to write for certain audiences and for certain purposes. Now, your professor wants you to identify 2 audiences: a parent, teacher, stranger, etc., and purposes: writing a research paper, giving directions, etc., of your choice. Once you select 2 different audiences and assign them each a purpose, your professor wants you to identify the style markers you would use to communicate to your audience. You don't have to write out anything. What your professor means is, say you selected your purpose and audience to be write a blog post for a classmate. You don't have to write out a blog like you did during part 1. Your professor is looking for identify the 2 different audiences and purposes and identify the style markers you would use in your writing for each purpose. Now that we have worked on recognizing what our writing style is, I want us to spend some time reflecting on what style markers we want to work on during the semester. In your resume, tell me what 2 style markers that you currently use in your writing can use some development. Why? What 2 style markers that you don't currently use in your writing will you try in future writing during this class? Why? For both questions, your professor wants to know what activities will you need to do to work on these style markers, as well as what do you need from your professor to help you work on these style markers. During part 2, you identified significant people and events that have shaped your identity. Now you will focus on identifying how your identity has shaped our point of view, like your voice, toward different topics. In your resume, tell your professor to what extent do you think that media, such as movies, social media, news outlets, books, etc., affect the way we think and feel towards a person or situation. What identity markers, identified in part 2, affected your view as you responded to this question? Briefly discuss how each marker affected your stand. Select a topic you want to write your view on from the questions or your own topic, and identify the identity marker that affected your POV. Are you stuck on one topic to write about? Consider asking yourself the following questions. What is an activity or topic you feel passionate about, and why? What led you to pick the profession and career you are currently studying for? What are your overall feelings and thoughts on writing research papers? Who or what motivates you to get through a tough day? When confronted with a difficult choice, who or what helps you come to a conclusion? When are you feeling lost, confused with schoolwork? What are your go-to strategies to complete your work? How do you feel and think about race and gender being discussed in school settings? Now that you have worked on recognizing what some of your writing voices are, your professor wants you to spend some time reflecting on how we will share our voice and perspective when we write during the semester. In your resume, tell your professor if you feel comfortable with sharing your POV in your writing, why or why not. What writing choices will you need to make in order to best share your voice? What do you need from your professor in order to best make you comfortable with sharing your voice? Your resume can be created in a digital or physical version. Resumes are used to display skills and experiences that make you valuable when looking for a job. Since writing is a skill, it will be a great genre to use to display our writing style, skills, identity, and writing voice and style collections. There are many ways to design a resume, from minimalist to fun and colorful. It all depends on the job you are after and the person you want to come across, aka purpose and voice. Your professor identified the purpose of this assignment to be help us understand our writing style and voice. Therefore, you want to design your resume in the way that expresses who you are, so have some fun. Of course, you can look at resume templates in Google for some inspiration. Again, the designing of your resume is up to you as long as you include your name at the top of your resume. Contact information and photo are optional. Writing strength. Write a letter or text message to your best friend. Write an about the writer. Identify your style marker go-tos. Identify at least 3 identity markers per identity factor. Select 2 different audiences and purposes and identify your style markers. Identify writing style goals. Write your POV on 2 different topics. Identify writing voice goals. After each class meeting, you will be submitting the parts that you have completed. You will be focusing on the information rather than designing your resume during class. You will be submitting your physical version to your professor in person at the end of class, or submit your digital version to the discussion board on Blackboard. Once you have completed all the parts of the project, you will be adding your completed resume to your portfolio website. You will be submitting your portfolio website link to Blackboard to your professor for a grade. Resumes are constantly being edited as you gain more skills and experiences, and thus your professor encourages you to constantly go back to your assignment throughout the semester and add your writing strength. You can continue to identify style markers and identity markers you have used for certain audiences and purposes. At the end of the semester, you will be submitting an updated resume as part of your My Style and Voice Collections project. And of course, for this project, you will need some materials. What is style and voice lecture notes? What factors affect identity lecture notes? What is literacy and who sponsors my literacy lecture notes? Professor Basalua's My Style and Voice collection sample, and materials for creating and designing your resume. During the first stages of the project, each individual part will be graded on a 3-point scale. I will show you the rubric to learn how your professor will be grading individual parts after each submission. This is the rubric. Requirements. All the information required for this part was included for 2 points. Due date. Submitted resume part by due date for 1 point. That will be a total of 3 points. Once all the parts have been completed, you will be expected to add your first submission of your My Style and Voice Collections project to your portfolio website. I will show you the rubric to learn how your professor will be grading your first submission. This is the rubric for the first submission. Writing strength. At least 3 writing strengths were identified for 1 point. Letter or text message. Introduction written follows the genre formatting and expectations of a letter or text message for 1 point. The letter or text message was written with the purpose of introducing yourself for 1 point. That will be a total of 2 points. About the writer. Introduction written follows the genre formatting and expectations of an about the writer for 1 point. About the writer section was written with the purpose of introducing yourself for 1 point, for a total of 2 points. Style marker Go-Tos. The style markers you used while written both introductions were identified for 2 points. Identity markers. At least 3 identity markers were identified per identity factor, such as relationship, race and ethnicity, society and politics, likes and dislikes, personal experiences for 5 points. Style collection. 2 different audiences and purposes were identified for 1 point. Style markers for each audience and purpose were identified for 2 points. Total of 3 points. Style goals. Identified 2 writing style markers that need development for 1 point. Identified the 2 writing style markers that will be used in writing for 1 point. Discussed what steps will be taken to work on these goals for 1 point. Total 3 points. Voice collection. A stand was taken on at least 2 points in a matter that clearly explains our thoughts and positions for 2 points. Identity markers affecting this position were also discussed for 2 points, total 4 points. Voice goals. Responded to all guiding questions, 1 point. Discussed what steps will be taken to work on these goals for a total of 2 points. Design. Design shows attempts at following genre formatting and expectations of a resume, 5 points. Due date. Submit resume by original due date for 1 point. Totals up to a total of 30 points. At the end of the semester, your professor will be grading your updated resume. You will be updating your portfolio website to include your most recent resume. I will show you the rubric on how your professor will be grading your portfolio website submission. This is the rubric for the portfolio submission. First submission requirements. All the requirements from the first submission are present, 10 points. Writing strengths. At least 2 writing strengths were added, 2 points. Identity markers. At least 1 identity markers per identity factor was added. Relationships, race and ethnicity, society and politics, likes and dislikes. Personal experiences for 5 points. Style collection. At least 1 new audience and purpose to identify style markers for was added. Style markers for the new audience and purpose were identified. 2 points. Total of 3 points. Style goals. Include a brief discussion on what steps were taken during the semester to work on the writer's style goals for 2 points. Include a brief discussion on the result of the writer's attempt to reach their style goals. Were the goals reached? 2 points. Total of 4. Voice goals. Include a brief discussion on what steps were taken during the semester to work on the writer's voice goals. Include a brief discussion on the result of the writer's attempt to reach their voice goals. Were the goals reached? Total of 4 points. Design. Design shows attempts at following genre formatting and expectations of a resume for 5 points. Organization. Resume organization allows for all the requirements to be easily located for 2 points. Accessibility. All images and text design and placement are readable and legible for 2 points. Audience appropriate. The resume was meant for an audience that doesn't know the writer well. Therefore, necessary information was explained and detail was added when needed. 3 points. All this totals up to a total of 40 points. For the due dates of all your projects, you should check Blackboard and your syllabus because that is where your professor will have all the due dates that you need for everything, especially these projects. Awesome, you now know what you need to do for my style and voice collections projects. Good luck, until next time, bye.